Hey everyone. Your ego is probably holding you back. Here's why. When our ego takes over, it places all of these expectations on us. So I don't know about you, but I've been a victim of this my whole life. When we have an ego, we feel the need to meet all these expectations and rise to the occasion and essentially reaffirm that ego. So our ego is telling us things like, I'm great, I'm smart. And those aren't bad things. But our ego also tells us, I should be doing this. I should have this level of respect from others. I should be making this much money. I should be in this job. I should be successful in XYZ. I should have this, this, and this. So when that happens, we start to become very disillusioned and unsatisfied with our lives as they are because we've placed all of these different expectations on ourselves that usually are not reasonable. But because it's our ego, we think that we have to meet that in order to self-actualize as a person. So I'm going to give you a really great example. When I was a few years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I had similar thoughts. So as an engineer, scientists, engineers, maybe you could say that they have egos. I don't know. I for sure did. And when I got into the work world, I was thinking, okay, I'm hot stuff. I just went through all this schooling. Society has told me that I'm smart and I'm valuable. My parents have told me that. My school has told me that. My professors have told me that. So now that I'm in the real world, I need everyone else to reaffirm that and tell me that. So I need a job where I make this much amount of money. I need a job that is flexible and that appreciates me and on and on and on it goes. And the harsh reality is that that's not how the world works. Okay. We live in a bubble, especially when we're younger or when we're in school, and then we graduate and we leave the nest and we're out in the world, and the world is much more realistic and much more harsh. So we very quickly realize that all of those expectations that we had were not realistic and probably not going to happen. Okay. So for a lot of us, we get humbled very, very quickly. Okay. But I think the ego is still there, and it takes time to break the ego down. And I've seen so many people make the same mistakes, myself included, where we were making decisions based on our ego, and it ends up hurting us in the long run. So some other examples would be getting into a job and feeling like you deserve more money, not based on merit, but just based on your degree or your schooling. And I very much have had to deprogram myself from this mindset many times because that's what I was taught in engineering school. And when I got into the real world, people aren't going to hand you a paycheck just because you have a degree. You have to use the degree. You have to work. You have to prove your value, and you have to provide value for whatever company you're working for. They're not going to just give you money just because you have a diploma. And it sounds ridiculous, but that was kind of my mindset and my reasoning. I thought, well, why should I have to ask for a raise? I'm valuable. I should just get it just because I have this fancy piece of paper and I, did all this homework and all these tests. Just so ridiculous. But that's how our minds have been programmed now, especially if you're one of those kids whose parents put so much weight and value on school and getting good grades. And I know for me, my parents did the same thing. They said, all you have to worry about is getting good grades and going to school and getting into a good college. And then your life, you'll be happy. That's success. You won't have to worry about anything ever again. And while, taking school seriously is good advice for sure, getting a good degree definitely will help set you up for success in the future. That is not the end all be all. You still have to put in the work. And I think our egos, we get so pumped up. And then when we actually have to work, I think that's when we tend to get lazy and we tend to think, I don't have to do this. I've already done all the work. Well, the work never stops. Okay. I hate to break it to you, but the work never stops. And so you have to continue to prove yourself and provide value. And that's just how the world is. So another way our ego really sabotages our lives is by keeping us in situations that we probably should not be in, but we feel like we deserve it or we have to do that because, again, it serves our ego. So one example would be staying in a job just because it pays well and it has the title and the prestige that you're looking for to boost yourself up. But in the long term, it's really not what you want to be doing. It's pointless, it's soul crushing, and you really don't need to be spending any more time doing that. But you stay because it is continuing to pump up your ego. I see so many talented people who could be making such a difference in the world and doing such cool things, but they stay in a job where they really aren't benefiting society or themselves at all. And they're staying in these jobs and they're staying stressed out just because of the money. And I think that's so ridiculous. Yes, money is intoxicating. Yes, we need money to survive. But at what point does it start to erode your sense of self and your soul? And at what point is it just not worth it anymore? So for those people, I think you need to leave, and I think you need to do something better for the world. And a final example I'll give about how your ego can really sabotage your life and your future is how you interact with others. And I'll use a corporate example. So there have been many times where I have probably not progressed as much as I should have, or I haven't been totally authentic or honest because I was afraid of how people would perceive me. There were so many times at work and in my life where I was so afraid of coming off as dumb or not speaking up or speaking my piece or being authentic because I was afraid about how it would come off and how it would be perceived. And I always thought people would think, oh, she's so dumb. She has no idea what she's talking about. And that is such a direct hit to your ego. I was just trying to guard myself. I would rather sit there and be a robot and stay quiet or give some fake regurgitated answer than actually be myself and put myself out there and try and just be my calm, normal, authentic self. And the funny thing is that in trying to cultivate this persona and protect my ego, I actually came off as stiff and weird and totally unrelatable. I remember there were some times at my old job where I was giving a demo or talking to customers or talking to partners or whoever, and I used to literally write a script on what to say because I didn't want to come across as unprofessional or slow or dumb or something ridiculous. But the irony is that in writing a script, I'm reading it, you come across as robotic and rehearsed and fake. And that's exactly what happened. And I think people could kind of sense that. And I think it definitely eroded people's trust in me. And it just, my natural, semi-charismatic self could not come forth and shine, right? So then I would get really down on myself and I'd get more quiet and I just wouldn't speak. And I feel like there were a lot of ideas that I should have voiced that I just held back because I was afraid of how it would be perceived. And I was afraid that people would think they were dumb and they would judge me. And then my life was just over at that point, right? So I think that for many people, this is the case. And we need to stop holding back. We need to be our authentic selves. Stop being afraid of how people perceive you. Stop being afraid of people thinking you're dumb because you're probably not. Right? And I find I highly respect people who may not be experts in something, but they'll come to the table and they'll say, listen, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert here. And they'll come forth with humility and honesty. And I think those qualities are so much more valuable and so much more respectable than holding back and trying to seem smart all the time and trying to have this cultivated persona. I'd much rather someone be wrong about something, but have humility and honesty in how they deliver themselves. So, pro tip right there. I used to hold back so much. There were so many things I wanted to say in meetings, in person, in an email, on a LinkedIn post, and I would hold back because people are judgmental. People can be judgmental. The internet is ruthless. You put anything out there, anyone can criticize it, and people will find things to criticize about anything, okay? But that's not the point. That should not shake your ego. You should work on cultivating your sense of self so that it's unshakable in situations like that. Because at the end of the day, what others think about you does not matter. It only serves to hold you back and keep you from progressing in your life. So my advice would be, stop caring what other people think. Put your ego in check. Work on cultivating a strong sense of self that is not reliant on your ego. Come to the table with humility and honesty and openness. Don't be afraid of feedback. And really, at the end of the day, keep your ego at the door, because people can sense inauthenticity. People can sense when you're faking something. The most unattractive quality in a person, I think, is someone who is ego-driven, who thinks so highly of themselves and has no humility. So do away with that. It's not helping you at all. Come to the table with humility. Work on figuring out if you like yourself. Stop being concerned if other people are perceiving you in the way that you want to be perceived. Do you like yourself? It's not about whether Sandra thinks that you're dumb or Mike thinks that you're unorganized. Do you actually embody those traits? Are you happy with yourself? Are you bringing your best self to the table? And if not, fix it. But don't let how you think other will perceive you and your fragile ego to rule your life, because you will not go anywhere. So leave that at the door so that you can walk through a new door. All right. I will talk to you guys later. I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful day.